Thank you again for inviting me to this Catholic Moms group here. I traveled quite far from Mississauga to be with you, from your sister parish, because really St. Eugene's parish here came from St. Maximilian Kolbe parish, right? So we're very close in that regard. And as I said in Polish, I'm also very thankful to be a part of, to be here with you today, because this ministry was important. We talk about formation in the church, especially sacramental formation, so preparation for baptism, for confirmation, for the Eucharist, for our First Communion. Then we have now in the church as well preparation for marriage, right? Marriage prep courses. But after that, what do we have, right? How can we grow in that vocation of motherhood, of fatherhood, of even laity? And the Church has been responding in the recent years to that question. And so thanks be to God that there is a group for mothers to grow in your vocation as mothers, because you need that help, that witness. You may not think it's much, but just even one word can help another person out. So I'm very, very thankful that this group does exist. I'm very blessed to be able to give more of a witness today, because my role is not to teach you what motherhood is, because I have no idea. I can only know as much as what I've witnessed from my own mother. And she was an important and crucial person in my discovering of my vocation, and she is till this day, because I mean everyone needs a mother, everyone needs life, and if we don't honor that great gift of life, then we have no mothers, we have no fathers, we have no priests, we have no nuns. There is no vocation if there is no life. And so that's why I'm very gracious at first, just always to thank my mother for life, for having for having carried me. She always reminds me that it wasn't an easy pregnancy, that many times I would kick her in her liver and or in her kidneys rather, and that was not an easy time for her, but I'm very happy that she persisted with me, and that I was able to grow first as a human, then receive the faith, and also now understand my vocation as a religious and as a priest. So just quickly, the four aspects or the four parts of today, of my speaking today, will be firstly on just my upbringing in my house, how that was important, how that helped me to grow, to then discover the importance of my faith. And that was also thanks to the witness of my parents, my mother in particularly. When I was a young child, she had an important role in preparing me for my First Communion, but we'll go into that a bit later. And then my discovery of my vocation, also the help that I received from her, and how our parents, our mothers, are crucial in discovering our vocations and forming our vocations. And then the last quick point will be just as Ms. Pilarski also mentioned, I'll give you some just observations that I got from the life of my own mother, what really helped me in discovering my vocation, and how it can be beneficial to form your children, not only for the priesthood or for religious life, but even to be mothers themselves and to be fathers in the future. My vocation, because the three photos that I have up there is one of baptism. It's not my own, but the other two are personal photos of my first, not my first vows, but my entry into the novitiate. So when I started religious life, and the final photo of my ordination on the 22nd of August of 2024, when our Archbishop Cardinal Leo ordained me, and also something I didn't add in Polish, but it was also in my own home parish, because I come from St. Maximilian Kolbe Parish. I was a parishioner there all my life. I was baptized there, received my first communion and my confirmation. So it was a very emotional day to also receive the sacrament of Holy Orders in that same parish. And so I'm very thankful to God for that. But going back to the beginning of my vocation, it's something that, it seems very evident that that our vocation is already imprinted in our hearts at the beginning of our lives, that God forms us for a specific purpose. And it was the case with my vocation, because my mom already when she was pregnant with me, she would pray quite a lot. She said I was also not too kind to her. I would kick her in the kidneys, and wasn't the best child. What can an unborn child really control? But that led her to also pray quite a bit, because I don't know the full details, but I know that she was very scared, and so she wanted to give up her motherhood and ask God for His assistance, because it was something, a new endeavor for her. I was her first child. I am her first child, and so she gave up that. She gave that into the hands of the Lord, trusting Him, and prayed the Chaplet of Divine Mercy every day. Later on, when I finally entered religious life, when I entered in Poland, I was sent actually from Canada to Poland. There, in our novitiate in Holy Cross, it's near Kielce, in I guess more to the south of Poland. There, I felt my mother's assistance. Well, my whole family's, but her especially. She prayed a lot for me in discerning my vocation, but also sustaining me spiritually. And it was a very, very important moment, because it's a moment that you never repeat. Novitiate is 12 months of your entire life, where you're just stuck in one community. It isn't easy, but it's very spiritually demanding. But I felt my mom's assistance, and when we talked, but also in her prayers. And so I'm very thankful for her. And then that moment of ordination, where I was able to also be with my family, because they live now in Poland, as I mentioned earlier, and so it was beautiful that they could come, and they were here, and we got to live that moment together, and just seeing my parents, my sisters, because I have 3 younger sisters as well. Them being there and knowing that they helped get me to where I'm at, because our vocation is fostered through the whole family. So the mother, the father, but also the siblings, they can help, and they're there to help. So about my family, so this is it. These are my parents and my 3 sisters. This photo was actually taken the day of my perpetual oblation. So the moment that I said yes to God for the rest of my life, and became a missionary oblate of Mary Immaculate, or giving myself totally to the Institute of the Missionary Oblates. And I just really loved that they were able to come, because and they were there with me on that day, because some brothers, since we're a missionary order, in that group of 6 of us that professed our final vows that day, there was only 3 of us that our families could come. One brother from Mexico, his parents couldn't come, and then also from Senegal and from Sri Lanka, it was hard for them to come. So I'm very blessed that they could participate in that moment of me entering a new chapter in my life, but also that they were the ones who also sustained me in my vocation. So I'm very grateful for that as well. I'll add this as well in English, because I think it's important. That our vocations are fostered in families, and what that means is that many vocations where families don't accept someone entering into the seminary or into religious life usually do not bring fruit. And it's because it's not always that reason, that because they don't have that support from their family, but it's so crucial that their family sustains them and tries to even understand them. Maybe they don't completely understand, but trusting that God knows better. And the same is with vocations. We never know where they're going to lead. Some people need, and I believe that God sends people or inclines their heart for them to enter religious life, enter the seminary, in order for them to discern that this isn't their place, but for them to have been formed to prepare them for their later task, their later vocation in life, whether that to be a better father, a better mother, or whether just to be a better person and a better Christian. Sometimes that is also necessary. And so just to sustain anyone who does discern that they're thinking, maybe I should go and enter the seminary or enter religious life, to sustain them with their prayers, asking just God for them to discern well what God really wants from them. Okay, so the three pillars that I base that helped me to be formed as a Catholic, as a child, and not only as a Catholic but also in my humanity. One is just being able to spend time with my parents, with my sisters, my siblings. Many times that was for us Sunday. That was the weekend. It was a moment of just gathering together, playing board games, watching movies together. But also that Sunday was really a day of just spending time together. So since we used to live in Barrie, which is 100 kilometers to the north, for those who aren't from Canada or from Ontario. It's 100 kilometers to the north of Toronto. And we would come to Mass that 100 kilometers, one, because we had a community at the parish, and so at St. Maximilian Kolbe Parish in Mississauga. So we had that. And two, my parents realized that, because we did have a Polish parish as well in the city of Barrie, but our parents realized that we, as children, would prefer to go there to Mass. And so my parents made the decision. They said, if our children want to go there, we're not going to impede them. We're going to, yes, it may be burdensome to travel the 100 kilometers one way and then back the 100 kilometers to the north. But if they want to go to Mass, if they want to participate, let's do that. So it was really a good witness, I would say, of my parents, that they decided to do that. But just even those small moments of spending time together. I mean, I'm from the generation that already knows what it's like to come or to meet people from broken families, where their one desire in life is just that their parents spend more time with them, and that they don't focus so much on their careers and making money and making life economically stable, but that they can just have a mother and father at home. I mean, it's nothing too revolutionary. It's just what we need. We need our parents to grow, and the crisis that we're living through in our world today is because we have a lack of time, especially for our families. And if we don't have time for our families, then we won't have enough time for God either, because those go hand in hand. And so it's so important to have that time, whether it just be 2 hours, 3 hours on a weekend, but have that time, because I know how much I appreciated it, and I see it now. The older I get, I know how great that was, and I'm just thankful for my parents for having done that. One thing that I didn't add in the Polish, but the reason my parents, I guess, also the reason they invested so much in their family life is because they come from broken families, the two of them, and they know what it is to lack a family, their parents' love. And so I'm just so grateful having come to know their life stories, that they decided to break that cycle and wanted to invest in their families and give us what they didn't have as children. So especially that time spent together, that love of the parents. And so I'm very grateful for that. The second part that I also wanted just to touch upon was prayer life and spirituality. In my family, what we would do is we would pray, but this wasn't for my whole childhood. I would say that my parents also went through a conversion of their own many times. But when I was about, I think, 11, we started to gather more regularly to pray together in the evenings. And it would just consist of us coming to the one table that we know as children, and we still have it in our house, that is our prayer table, where we have a candle. And that would be the start of our prayer. We would just light the candle, and then we would start with forgiving others or saying sorry for things that we had done to other people, other members of our family, if we had done something wrong. To thank the Lord for the good that we've received, and to pray in various intentions, and to be able to hear my sisters, my parents, my mom, my dad, know what they were praying for was also quite it was very helpful in growing in my faith, because when you can hear what other people have, especially in your family members, what lies in their hearts, it can help us to then grow together. And so I'm very grateful, and I've only recognized it as a priest, how formative that being able to pray together was. And I've talked to other families already as a priest when I was also in the seminary, and I know also from my own just in my own life, I know how hard it can be to pray as a family, because there are temptations, and to know that it's a spiritual warfare. Satan does not want our families to pray together, because he knows that a family that prays together stays together. And so to always know that there will be moments where we'll feel that even an anger can well up, or people might not want to come. I mean, in my family, it was many times my mom would be the first one waiting for us all to pray, and she'd sometimes even have to wait 30 minutes, but we would come finally and we'd pray. And so just to know that even though there may be barriers, there may be difficulties, to persist, because the persistence is the most important part. And then lastly, community. Community understood that I was part of as a child, and my parents and my sisters still also belong to this group of families of John Paul II. It's a group that was born in St. Maximilian Kolbe Parish, and my mom helped in forming that group. And it was just a meeting of once a month between, families that go to church, young families that needed formation. And so the spouses would meet with the priest, and there would be a catechesis, and us children would just have a moment to play, and to then later we also had formation for the children. Still a small group, but it was very influential in seeing it for my vocation, because I was able to see other like-minded families that also their priority was Jesus and the church, and being faithful to what the church teaches. And so knowing that you're not alone is also very important, especially, I know, and a lot of your children probably also know, if they go to Catholic schools, that our Catholic schools aren't that Catholic. And especially, I was shocked when I went, because I was able, or maybe I was also fortunate enough to be in both boards, so I've seen both. But I just know sometimes how hostile it can be to even profess your faith in a Catholic school. And so when you have other families that you are friends with that also practice their faith for your children, that's very crucial. And so to search for that, search for community life, because it helps your children. It helps as well the formation of you growing in your vocation, first as mothers, for your husbands as fathers, and so it's just a net positive. So about the faith and why in my faith my mom had a very important role. So the photo that I added was of the resurrection of the empty tomb, of this moment when it seems like everything is lost. Everything seems to have, that Satan seems to have won, but really God did. And I guess the reason is that I give that is that to give hope. Hope that you as mothers can also give your witnesses to your children about your faith. Because I can tell you that my mother's witness of faith was very important. She didn't come from a very practicing Catholic background, and she was born in a very communist city in Łódź in Poland. My grandfather, I found out not too long ago, was also an active member in the party, and so he didn't pretend that he was Catholic. He knew that he just wasn't, and so she only would really go to church thanks to her friend from school that would also go, and she would invite her sometimes to come with her to church. And because she had that other person in her life, she was able to attend Mass. But outside of that, I mean, she received the sacraments just like everyone, really, or maybe the majority of young people still do in Catholic circles in the Polish culture. But after that, it's not that she went away from the faith, it was never really alive. Only when she became a university student did she encounter the living God. She recounted to me that especially she used to be very involved in the charismatic renewal groups in Poland, and then here in Canada for a moment as well. And that's where she encountered for the first time that God is living in her life. And she told me that was an important moment because that changed her trajectory. And as a young mother, as I said, she prayed a lot with me when I was in her womb. She also prayed, and she dedicated me, I found out later, and she dedicated all her children to our Blessed Mother. So all my sisters are also dedicated to her. And so she had a faith. She had a strong faith that, I mean, looking at where she came from, it didn't seem like it should have been as strong as it is. But God has His ways. And so to trust the process. And so also to talk about the faith, I like to bring up the example when I talk about my childhood, that my mother was a bit concerned if I would be prepared or ready enough for my first communion. And so what she did is she made me go 1 year earlier for catechesis. I went through the whole thing. I went through all the classes. I tried to learn all the prayers, but I don't think I did it successfully. But she knew that would happen. And so she did that with the intent that I would do 2 years of catechesis instead of 1. So you can you can still fail in your preparation for communion and still become a priest. So there is still hope. But her just really being invested in my spiritual well-being and as well the spiritual life of my sisters, I could see it because she was really involved in just being a witness of faith to me, because she didn't have that when she grew up. And so I'm very thankful for her to this day that she did that. And just to know that, it can be difficult as mothers, as parents, to witness to your children about your faith, because just because my mom witnessed to me even at a young age didn't mean that I took the faith as my own. It took time. Actually, it took me 11 years before 12 years before I really made the faith my own. So it was the year before actually my confirmation that I encountered also the living God in the sacrament of confession, and that changed the whole trajectory of my life, because I understood that what my mother was witnessing to is really true. And so to have that witness as well from my mom at a young age, I knew that she wasn't lying to me. Especially, she told me once, I remember as a kid, and something that I keep till this day, that I don't know how people live without God, because I just know how much my life would be worse without Him, and how much hope I have when I do have Him. And it doesn't come from someone that, it's from my mom. It's not coming from someone that, has always been going to church. She knows what it is to live without God and to be far from Him, and for the people around her to not take Him seriously. And so I'm very grateful that she gave me that witness as a child. Because I remember, I think she said that when I was about 10 or 9 years old, and it started really to started to open me up to the reality that God really is true. So I added 2 photos here as well of one of the cross, especially it's an oblate cross of my order, the missionary oblates of Mary Immaculate, and the resurrection, Jesus at the tomb with Mary Magdalene. There's also a quote by N.T. Wright, but unfortunately it's too far away for me to be able to read the text. But I remember that it's more or less what N.T. Wright is talking about here, is that the resurrection seems like Jesus is he is lost. But it's when everything seems lost that the future becomes present, is what he says. So many times when we're in difficulty, when we have difficulties in our vocations, when you have difficulties in your vocation as mothers, you may feel the cross, you may feel desperate, you may feel that it's difficult. That moment of encountering Jesus is that moment of receiving the futures, because many times when we're in pain, we look out to the future with hope. We try to run away from our difficulties by either going to the past, the moments that were great in the past, or into the future. And that's what happens in the moment of the resurrection. Everything seems lost. Everything is gone. But yet, Jesus comes. He comes back. There is a hope in this future. And so, to persist in your vocation, because in our difficulties of our vocations, whether for me as a priest, whether for you as mothers, in our fidelity, in the difficulties of our vocation is where we grow. And so that's where I bring that. And these are just some photos of my mom and me as well. One on the left is one of my mom's favorite hobbies, which is she loves to go mushroom picking, and that actually was at our seminary in Poland. So just 2 photos as well of my mom. I didn't say her name, Małgorzata or Megan, but she prefers to go by Małgorzata. And there's 2 photos. The one on the left is, as I said, of her mushroom picking. You can't really see, or we can't see it here in the church. She has a huge smile on her face, and that's why I just love the photo, because it's one of her favorite hobbies. And it just turned out that when she did come to visit me in the seminary when I was already a deacon, it was my 6th year in Poland when I came back from Rome. I planned it, or I was able to plan it in a way that they came at the beginning of November when there was a lot of mushrooms in our area, and so I was just happy that she could come. And that's when we can see, when we're doing something that we love, we always also can see the beauty in the other person. And so that's why I just really like that photo. And the other photo is just of me reunited with my mom after 3 years of theology in Rome. We did see each other a couple times, but this is my first time on vacation, being able to actually spend time with my family, with my mom, my dad, and my sisters for an extended period of time after 3 years. And so I also go back to that photo with sentiment. 3 things that my mom taught me, or that I saw in her about faith. One is just her persistence in faith. Being able to pray in moments of difficulty and in moments of joy. She's been a person that once she encountered the importance of prayer, has really leaned on God for a lot. And she's a person that has also gone through quite a bit of suffering. She's had quite a bit of medical history in the past. And so in those moments of difficulty, even also in our family, it was turbulent at a time, she would lead on prayer. And I know that that is what helped our family go through those times, but also her as a mother. And so to know that you also have that intervention of God, and to always persist, because again, the persistence in prayer, in the thick and thin, in the difficulties and in their joys, are where we grow. The second image is of the Holy Spirit. Again, because my mom was kind of part of the charismatic renewal groups at one point in Poland and in Canada, but later she, I would see, and I learned from her quite a bit, that it's important to listen to the Holy Spirit, and that He really does speak in our lives. And as a missionary oblate of Mary Immaculate, what we have in these morning prayers that our founder wrote, one of the points is to ask forgiveness from the Holy Spirit for the moments when we did not listen to His, when He was speaking in our soul, when He was giving us, stirring us and telling us, maybe do this, maybe go here, maybe pray a bit more, pray for this person. He gives us a lot of inclinations. He speaks to our soul, and just to be open to Him. And the last photo there is of a rosary, of a person having a rosary in their hand, and it's just to symbolize that my mom, she's very Marian in her spirituality, I would say. So she prays quite a bit to Our Lady, and through her, Our Lady. Finds a lot of also importance in her role as a mother, in her vocation as a mother. But also she would pray quite a bit for me. On the rosary, she would do, I remember a couple of times during my times in seminary, especially before I professed my final vows, she did the novena to Our Lady of Pompeii, so the 54-day novena, and it was interesting because the day that she had started to thank God for the prayer, for having listened to her praying about me being faithful in my vocation and to accept my vocation to be a missionary oblate. That was the day when I received the news from the general that I was admitted to profess my final vows. So God does work, and to believe that He does. The question can then be, what can you do as a group? I'm not a mother, so I don't have the tips and tricks of how to be a good mother. What I do have is what my mom taught me and what she can witness. And I have one concrete as well book or author that I can recommend that I find is very good spiritual author and has Canadian ties. But we'll go into that in a second. So the three pillars, tips that I can give is one, what I talked about quite extensively tonight, is praying as a family, and to motivate your families to pray together. Because, again, citing the words, I forget it, he was an Irish missionary in the United States, but Mother Teresa also, Saint Mother Teresa, my favorite saint, she would also reiterate the same phrase: a family that stays together prays together. And so when we pray together, we witness to our children. And so as mothers, you're witnessing that what you profess to be true is really true. It's when we really, what we practice is being, what we preach is being practiced. The second image is of our Blessed Mother, and it has to do with giving your children freedom, giving everyone in the family space to grow in their vocations, but also sometimes they'll make mistakes, but to be there. Because our Blessed Mother, it's interesting when I heard an understanding of the Gospel according to Luke, where our Blessed Mother, after the Annunciation, goes to her cousin Elizabeth, and then comes back, and she has a child, and she's pregnant, and she doesn't explain to Joseph step by step what happened. She gives him space. She gives him time to understand what happened. She gives him freedom. And the same is, what I said in Polish, that we can have this tendency in our modern day culture to be helicopter parents, of taking care of every minute detail of what our children do. But they need that freedom to grow, first as humans, but also in their vocations. Because if we want to do everything for them, then there won't be any room for growth. And so, just as a priest, I've also witnessed that many times when young couples are preparing for their wedding, when they're going through all the paperwork with the parish, it's usually the parent that comes with the child, so their mother usually with their son or daughter, and she's the one that's doing everything for them, instead of letting them have that freedom, obviously encouraging them to do what they need, but in emphasizing that they are to take that responsibility because it's their vocation to get everything done. Helping them out is important, but also giving them that space. And what I found in my own vocation was my parents, my mother especially, would reiterate the phrase, especially when I was discerning entering the oblates and when I finally entered the oblates. She wanted me to be holy. She said, it doesn't matter if you even are like a garbage man and you're taking out people's trash, be a holy garbage man. And so in our vocations, that's what's most important, to sustain, to help those discern what they need to discern, because we can't make those decisions for them, but to help them in growing in that. And finally, that there's a picture of a chapel, a wooden chapel, or a chapel made out of wood, and it reminds us of just the importance of having a moment of solitude. In our vocations, we need that time, just me and God, in order to renew ourselves in every vocation. Especially as mothers, when you have a lot to do, you need that time in your week to pray and just to be with God, and to find a place where you can rest. And it really is important to renew, and it also enters a bit into the next person, the author that I want to either remind you of or to help you get to know, which is Catherine Doherty. She's founded the Madonna House community, and many of us Polish people know where that is because that's near Kashuby and Kobymery. And there she would often talk about the importance of that solitude of pustynia, of being able to just detach and just have that time, me and God, to renew. Us priests need it, and every lay person needs it as well. And so the book that I have, it's more about parenting, but also there are some really interesting questions, and the reason I really like to read her is because she's very spiritual and she's very strong. Sometimes she would say she writes stronger than what we priests would usually write. Being a lay woman, it's very important. So one of these books, or the one book that I have with me, is Nazareth Family Spirituality, Celebrating Your Faith at Home. It's in English and in Polish as well. So there is a Polish version. It's been translated. And the other one is Dear Parents. It's more of a book based on letters that she wrote to different parents in different questions. And I know that it can be useful because she did a series, Dear Seminarian and Dear Priest. And those two I have read, and they are very strong. And so she's a mother herself, or she was, because now she still is. She's we hope in heaven, because her beatification process is right now in the works. But she was a mother not only to her community but to her son, and so she knows what it is to be a mother. And she was a mother to many priests because she helped save many vocations. And so she's an important figure in the church, but especially for us in Canada, because she just did quite a bit as a mother, as a lay woman, and so I would highly recommend her. That's all from me tonight. I'm very thankful again for having me, and at our sister parish here in Brampton. And I think what the Lord is leading me to do now is just to bless you in your vocation as mothers, because it's very important. And I guess the fifth thing that you can do is to bless your children. Just even a small little cross on their forehead, something that my mom would do a lot, and she, in fact, still does today, whenever I see her. And so I won't be tracing crosses on your foreheads, but we can receive God's blessing though.